Okay, hi everybody. Welcome back to week two, part two, where we'll be talking now specifically about traditional music distribution as well as film distribution. So, if you're working with a music distributor, they're going to be very similar to agents, and they're going to want to know, will the deal make us money? Are you successful? And so they may have a couple questions. If you can show them that you've had any kind of success with a label before, in some way, maybe you've done some of your own promotion, you can show that your artist has a fan base or a following. You've got plans in place for a listening party, a launch. You've got maybe some well-known guests or producers on the album that could attract more fans to listen. That's going to be very helpful. If you can show them you've got airplay, even airplay on a college radio station, or if you work with an aggregator, all of the big aggregators, which we'll talk about in week 3 and 4, will get you airplay on digital radio stations. They'll get you on Pandora and Spotify and Tidal and places like that. That's very helpful to tell a distributor as well. Um, so if you've got any products on the store, or if you're selling any downloads yourself through an aggregator, such as on um, sales on iTunes or something like that, that's very impressive to them. You do want to tell them about that. If they want to take you on as a client, they'll also have some very specific requirements. For example, they'll want you to provide the distributor one sheet. We've talked about that a little bit. We'll see some examples of those in a minute. You may recall that's the sales flyer or the sales sheet that a distributor would hand out to a purchasing agent or a buyer to show them a little bit of information about the product, especially a new album that's being released. They'll also ask you to sign an exclusive deal with them, meaning for a period of time, typically at least 6 months, you can only use them as your distributor. And they may also ask you to provide promotional materials with a statement that they're not accepting any cleans from you. What that means is you're not providing promotional materials like flyers or display items that are so attractive that fans or customers might actually want to steal them or buy them. If you next time you're in a store and you see or a movie theater in the lobby and you see what looks like a very attractive display, go up to it and look carefully, and you'll see from a distance it looks fine, but up close, oh man, it's got maybe things stamped on it, not for resale, or it's got cuts in it or dings in it. It's pretty banged up. In other words, it's not clean. And again, this is a deterrent from encouraging, it discourages people from wanting to steal the marketing materials basically, or try to buy them. Here in the spotlight, we have some distributor one sheets, some samples of these. They all look different artistically, but they all basically contain the same information. They'll all say new release on them. They all have some artwork from the album cover. They all have the track listing, information, the UPC code, label number, catalog numbers, what the release date is, for example, how do you contact the distributor, the barcode, and then some sort of written synopsis about the music itself. So you can see these are very helpful if somebody's trying to make a purchasing decision. Uh, Distributors will also ask for a thing called cooperative advertising. If you ever do really, really well, co-op advertising will ask you to participate with the store in providing the funds to create sales flyers, circulars, or mailings that go out to customers. In addition to their commissions, distributors may also keep money in reserve for returns. It's inevitable that items are going to be returned. They might be lost or stolen as well, and so distributors got to have a little bit of money set aside to pay for those kinds of things. As I mentioned earlier, distributors will usually work on a commission. Their commission is much bigger than an agent because they do a lot more work. They almost, you might want to think of them almost like a salesperson, only with benefits. Not only will they try to get your product on store shelves like a salesperson and hype it and promote it and all that, but they also have extra features that are very nice. Many times distributors have warehouses where you can drop ship your items directly to them, and they'll keep them in storage until they actually make the sale and then have the items physically delivered to the store. Sometimes also distributors are responsible for going to the store and physically making sure the merchandise is stocked well or looks good, or if it runs low, they'll replace the content and so on. The more work they have to do, or the more difficult it is to sell the product, obviously the higher their commission will be. 10% is typical for an item that sells really, really well. 70%, 60, 70%, typical for a brand new product, brand new company, not really sure how well it'll sell, or there may be a lot of work into making the deal happen. So if you want to see some future trends for music distributors, here's a video you might enjoy watching. With film distribution, it works a little bit differently, and I'll be talking here only about distribution to exhibitors, in other words, movie theaters. Hollywood used to have what they called the studio system of distribution back in the 1930s and 40s, and the way that worked is each of the production companies owned their own family of dedicated movie theaters that would only only show their works. For example, Warner would make Warner content and own a family of Warner theaters that only showed Warner movies. Likewise, across the street, MGM would have a competing movie theater that only showed MGM movies, and so on. This went on for quite a while, through the 1920s, 30s, 40s, until finally it was determined to be a monopoly by the Supreme Court, and the theaters were ordered, the production companies were ordered to sell their theaters. Today, the way the process works is the production companies will have a distributor working on their behalf who arranges for an exhibitor showing. All the purchasing agents, the buyers, for example, from the major theater companies today, Regal, for example, will show up at these meetings along with investors as well. And they will enter into contracts, distribution deals to rent or book a film, meaning pay a fee to show it in their theaters. And the fee may depend on whether they're going to show it in all the theaters nationwide or just some of them in select cities, if they're going to have a rolling release or whatever. It all depends on that. If they agree to exhibit or show the film, they will enter into a distribution contract. The contract will stipulate a number of things. For example, for the exhibitor, the movie theater, the most important thing they want to know is what their house allowance or floor is going to be. In other words, the minimum amount of ticket prices that they can keep to cover their operating expenses. And there's no way to know if a film will be successful or not, so you really can't specify exact numbers. It's usually based on a formula of sales, and many times the exhibitors will commit to a specific period of time that they have to show a new movie. 2 weeks is a typical commitment. After that, the theater can decide on a week-to-week basis if it would like to renew and keep the film showing in the theater for another week, and then after that renew again for another week, and so on and so on. Distributor is responsible for auditing the ticket sales. They also secure proper payment. They also guarantee that film prints are struck and sent to each of the exhibitors properly, and also return when the film is done. And they also guarantee a full line of advertising support. They monitor show times, and they also guarantee the safe return of prints as well. With digital equipment, it seems a little strange that we even have hard copy prints anymore, but even despite digital projection equipment, many theaters to this day still use hard copy prints of the film for use in showing. Another thing, in the olden days, theaters used to be able to keep the reels of film in those days, and they have archives with all kinds of reels of film. They could show them whatever they wanted. Nowadays, not true. They book it for a certain period of time. When that period of time is over, the print has to go back to the production company. If the theater ever wants to show it again, they have to re-rent or re-book it. Here's some one-sheets from the film industry. We know them as movie posters. And throughout the whole course of the industry, we've always had these. This one here dates from around the 1920s, this one from the 1950s, and here a more modern one. So folks, for this week, I'll ask everybody please read chapters 11 through 16. I'll ask you also to start working on project 2. In this assignment, we're going to pretend the agent from last week loves your pitch or query letter, and now they're going to ask you to send them follow-up supporting material like an agent would do in real life. So depending on what your content is, this week you'll either be creating a press kit if you have music, you'll be creating a treatment if you have film, television, or games, or you'll be working on a book proposal if your choice is a book. Each of those, this assignment, of course, has a video that walks you through how to do it, as well as the instructions and rubric. Please come out to the go-to session if you can. If not, watch the video. And I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing your projects. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.